Who are you?
A ghost from your past, here to put an end to this sideshow.
You picked the wrong person to haunt.
What is up, guys? This is F3 here. I have finished watching Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3 and therefore completed the entire series, and I gotta say, it is an amazing way to conclude this series. I've always said this before, a great series needs to have a great ending and it'll live on until after it's done. And I think how the creators handled Cobra Kai Season 6 Part 3 has allowed it for that to happen. But yeah, I'm going to get into discussing Season 6 Part 3. They didn't disappoint with Kreese's character development, which is one of the most significant details in the show. Because if we remember, Kreese has done time and time and again, faked his apology, faked a character change just to advance his agenda. But the creators really showed us that Kreese really did change. And I think what sold the fact that Kreese did change is the fact that a student died because of the philosophy he taught. Not only that, but it was his Miyagi-Do. It was very obvious that Kreese blamed himself for what happened to Kwon, and this ripple affected into him really reconsidering his treatment of Johnny back in Karate Kid 2. And when we see Kreese make an apology to Tory, to Johnny, to Kim Da-Eun herself, we can really see it's an actual genuine apology, and it's not as a way to socially engineer his way back at their good graces. He just wanted to wish them good luck and just leave. He understood that the way he's been living his life due to an old age has nothing but held him back. It made him into a person he did not want to be, and he recognized the exact flaws of King Sung-young's teachings. And because he's at an old age where there's not much he can do, the only thing he can do is make amends and put himself to the side. But Kreese didn't just go out that way. It didn't stop there. He went out in the best ways possible, and that is taking Silver down with him. Silver was, despite Kwon's death, Silver wanted to keep the Sakai Taika going because he wanted to fulfill his own ambitions. To be fair, having Kreese take care of Silver makes sense because back in season 4, Silver wanted nothing to do with karate and anything to do with Daniel LaRusso at all, and it was Kreese who brought him back in. So in a way, Kreese actually took responsibility by dealing with Silver because it was him that Silver became a much worse version of himself in Karate Kid 3. This is a detail that I did not find myself thinking about, and despite the dark nature of it, I actually found myself agreeing with it, and that is Kim Da-Eun killing her grandfather, Kim Sung-young. On the surface, you could easily say she was looking for revenge for all the abuse he put her through. But here's the thing, if Kim Da-Eun acted on revenge, she'd be feeding a side of herself that would only turn her into the worst person and make her life less enjoyable. But we can see that Kim Da-Eun wasn't acting out of revenge, but she see this is something she actually needed to do. Despite Kwon's death, Kim Sung-yeon is still adamant on teaching his way of the fist, but his response to punishing students for Kwon's death is to teach an even more deadly trick and make them more vicious. It's like the time it took Kwon's death to happen, Kim Sung-young wants the deaths of his other students to happen a lot sooner. Kim Da-Eun and Kreese saw through that and took steps to defy Kim Sung-young and make sure none of this happens. And Kim Da-Eun had to make a hard choice of killing her grandfather. But we can see it's not out of revenge, but we can see that the situation is way too dire to let Sung-young live, and therefore he had to be dealt with quickly. Kim Da-Eun was actually thinking about the future of her students when she did this. If the future didn't require killing Kim Sung-young, Kim Da-Eun wouldn't have taken that decision. The fact that she did told us how dire the situation was and how Cobra Kai, the way of the fist philosophy in South Korea, needed to change. And if we're going to be honest, it actually turned out for the best as we see Da-Eun teaching a more compassionate version of the Cobra Kai philosophy. Now, the one detail here is that it's likely Kim Da-Eun is not going to mention this detail to her students in the same way that Mr. Miyagi had physically assaulted a guard and killed his opponent in the Sakai Taikai. It was never mentioned to Daniel because that was not a detail that Daniel needed to know because that was a different time and more likely than not, it was a drastic measure on Miyagi's part. And we can use this to understand Da-Eun's position more effectively. There's a modern therapeutic moment that we often talk about. So nowadays, I see therapy posts about confronting your inner child, reparenting your inner child, reconnecting with your inner child, because any wounds we have into our adulthood, it's connected to what we felt in our formative years, is what we call the inner child. So it's basically who you are as an adult connects with the child that experienced this trauma, and you want to heal it in order to help you process that pain and move on. The reason I bring that concept up is that there's a scene in Cobra Kai season 6 part 3, episode 12, near the end, where once Daniel explained why Miyagi-Do is dropping out of the Sekai Taika to Johnny, it spurred Johnny to confront Kreese and tear up about the fact that how Kreese treated him after the 1984 tournament really wrecked up his life. It wrecked up his decision. We get the feeling that Johnny felt like he was all alone, nobody to turn to because of how Kreese treated him that time. And that to me stood out the most because during this time when this downward spiral happened, we have to remember Johnny just graduated high school. He just graduated high school. He was just about to get his life started, and this happened. And that right there, I think that was a real life example of Johnny Lawrence connecting with his inner child and confronting the pain he felt and wanting it to heal. Now, in most cases, when you confront your inner child, we don't get the luxury of confronting that person that caused us this pain most of the time. Whereas in Johnny's case, he actually did. He confronted Kreese directly about it and got the healing he deserves. There's a different perspective that I did not think I'd be thinking about, is the different effects of the same advice. So when Tory was struggling in her match against Zara because Zara got into Tory's head, Johnny tries to motivate Tory in the way Johnny always does, which is that, yo, you gotta get back up, you gotta be a badass, you gotta kick ass out there, you gotta show him who's boss. Like Johnny would motivate his students in this way, but we could see in context, this does not work with Tory like it does with Miguel, Hog, Aisha, etc. And the reason because is Tory is not someone who doubts their ability to do karate. Tory is confident in her abilities to do karate and kick some ass. Like we already know that. But what's bothering Tory is more so about like who's really in her corner, who's really in her support system. Because Tory had to do almost everything by herself. And even though Johnny's motivating her, it doesn't change the fact that this motivation is going to make her do something by herself again. So when Robbie came down and the only thing he just says is "I love you," this addressed the source of Tory's stress, because the fundamental need Tory has always lacked is having someone by her side as she's going through life and someone help her. What Robbie gave Tory was exactly that. And that's what got Tory back up and fulfilled her promise of knocking Zara's teeth on the floor. This is a minor point, but one thing I would have loved to see, I'm sure fans would also love to see, is Johnny finishing Wolf with the crane kick. Because throughout the series, we never actually see Johnny use the crane kick on anyone. We've seen him do the wax on, wax off, paint the ladders. We've seen him use other Miyagi-Do techniques, but we hadn't seen him use the signature crane kick. And I think this is one of those things where Cobra Kai fans really wanted to see Johnny using. We only got to see Johnny about to do crane kicks, but he never actually got to perform it. And I was just thinking, where is the moment that Johnny Lawrence, the Johnny Lawrence of Cobra Kai, is about to do the crane kick? But if I'm going to be honest, even if Johnny Lawrence didn't do the crane kick, it was still poetic. Because in that moment, Sensei woke Fang Xiao. He was about to use the Shaolin Sunset. And unlike the crane kick, I think Wolf was trying to kill Johnny in that instant. Because if we look back from Wolf's fight in Thailand, he used 3/4 of the Shaolin Sunset, and it was enough to kill that MMA fighter. So, and the fact that Wolf wanted to use it in the world tournament, I think I had more reason to suspect that he was trying to kill Johnny on the mat using a tournament. But Johnny recalled the moment where he was about to face Daniel doing the crane kick on him, and it was a reminder to what Daniel has told Johnny earlier. The only reason the crane kick worked on Johnny is because Johnny ran into it. And that was a good point to make, because rather than going to the attack where you get defeated just like Johnny did with Daniel's crane kick, Johnny actually took the Miyagi-Do away and let Sensei Wolf came to him, and he followed that up with sweeping Wolf's legs and eventually winning the Sekai Takai tournament. can we talk about one of the greatest moments in Cobra Kai history, which is making the Dojo Alliance come back into full circle by the end of the series? And that is a great way to go out, as it calls back to the roots back in season 1. But it's through this journey that Johnny has a healthy interpretation of the karate philosophy he's been taught, which is helped by the fact that he learned from Miyagi-Do to maintain balance. And if you really think about this, we have to think about how the Cobra Kai series started out and how it transitioned back to where it came from. Season 1 was meant to be a wholesome moment where Johnny is just teaching karate to students who just want a way to stand up to bullying. But the seasons we go through, the stakes just keep getting higher and higher and higher, to the point that what started out as a wholesome moment for karate self-development turned into a sort of plotline that you would see in a generic shonen anime. And the stakes kept rising, and it felt like the series was about to become something completely different. But by the end of the series, Johnny goes back to being the Cobra Kai sensei he once was back in season 1. We see him teaching the 3 tenets of Cobra Kai: strike first, strike hard, no mercy. And he had that exact same energy he did back in season 1, but he hasn't taught Cobra Kai through Kreese's interpretation, which is what led to a lot of problems we saw in the series. But instead, Johnny brings in his own interpretation, his own way of doing it. He wanted his Cobra Kai to be better, so it looks like Johnny's going to get that. And through his partnership with Daniel's Miyagi-Do, they're going to ensure that Cobra Kai doesn't go far into its philosophy by using Miyagi-Do to keep it all balanced. This is a great ending to conclude the series. There was a missed opportunity to develop Axel's character into adding more layer to him. From what we remember as from season 6 part 2 is that Axel Kovacevic has always been raised as a killing machine, and as a result this stunted his social skills. And during season 6 part 2, he didn't have any animosity towards anyone until he develops one for Miguel, due to him perceiving Miguel as the one who stole Sam, who he fell in love with because she was nice to him. And here's the thing, this is a teen TV show, so obviously teen romance is going to apply there, so I won't go at Axel for that as well. But I think the creators missed an opportunity to develop Axel's character right after the ending of season 6 part 2, where Kwon tries to kill Axel, but Axel defends himself in self-defense, and that led to Kwon indirectly killing himself with Kreese's Unjangdo. And if we actually showed Axel being obviously affected by Kwon's death, which I believe should have been a major factor because Axel likely has never taken a life before, I think it would have added an interesting depth to Axel's character, as whatever character development he goes on is not just he has a one-sided crush on Sam, which, let's face it, we see that in almost every high school series, but the fact that he was indirectly responsible for Kwon's death would have actually affected him a lot more, because Axel's lack of social skills and training for hell would have likely gotten him to consider if he was actually a killer or not. I think, in my personal opinion, Kwon's death should have affected Axel more than the fact that he likes Sam. But the one thing I liked about Axel's character development in season 6 part 3 is that Axel clearly shows to have his own code of honor when it comes to fights. And unlike Johnny and Bobby in 1984, Axel, when he was advised to break Miguel's spine because he knows about Miguel's injury, he chose not to do so and fought Miguel fairly. Even though he lost the fight against Miguel, Axel actually won his own battle, which is standing up to Sensei Wolf. He let go of his attachment, and when Sensei Wolf told him that I'm disappointed to have you as a student, Axel didn't care about that, and instead retorts with he's ashamed to be his student and walks away from our dragons for good. And I think it's a good thing, because Axel was never meant to be a bad guy in this situation. He was just put in an antagonistic role and was there to give Miguel a rival, since Robbie has more of a personal history with Kwon. But yeah, out of all the Iron Dragons, Axel is one of the more likable characters, and he actually won his own battle against Sensei Wolf despite losing his battle against Miguel Diaz, which in my book makes him a true winner. That is it for my video, guys. So in light of the Cobra Kai series ending, you won't be seeing content of Cobra Kai anymore because the series has ended. It's now time for us to move on. Because I'm still a Cobra Kai fan, I will continue talking about the things that are related to the Miyagi-verse, such as the Karate Kid Legends and a potential Cobra Kai movie if the Karate Kid Legends is successful, as referencing Ralph Macchio's words. However, we have to consider that there's also going to be an eventual end for those two. And if you want to see more Cobra Kai content or Cobra Kai related content, here are some recommendations from my channel that I would suggest you guys to watch. So, if Cobra Kai has taught us anything, it's that the right mentor can set us on the right path. But can we imagine a world without a mentor? This world is explored in the game called Sifu. Sifu makes up the second biggest content you'll find on my channel alongside Cobra Kai. It's a character action game developed by Slowclap where you play as a Pakme student who lost their father and mentor as a child and spend their entire life seeking revenge against those that took him away. And following that, I have also made Sifu videos on how you can play your favorite Cobra Kai characters in the game utilizing techniques and combos that best resembles the Cobra Kai character's personality. And if you like those kinds of videos, then I'd encourage you to check out my actual Sifu gameplay videos. And in follow up to that, I'd encourage you to check out my videos on the smoothest combos to see how you can chain different combos in Sifu and create a customized combat experience. And with that being said, I've also encourage you to check out a video that I have edited called Pak Make It, and it's basically created using the game Sifu, but the structure captures the spirit of the Karate Kid where you learn to use new technique and use it at a critical moment. You can also find content on my channel about Cobra Kai's Dojo's Rising and the Karate Kid sagas continues, as well as the Karate Kid Street Rumble, which retells the story of the Karate Kid from series 1 to 3. I also do videos on how certain characters from other series would fight using Cobra Kai versus Miyagi-Do. This is one of the reasons why I absolutely love character action games such as Assassin's Creed, Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Sleeping Dogs, because it offers enough flexible combat features that helps bring their personalities to life and offer players a novel combat experience, defining how the character wants to do combat. You can fight aggressively like Cobra Kai, you can fight defensively like Miyagi-Do, and you can define your path that you want to take. And that's the type of games that I love a lot, which is why my channel name Free Flow Fire is reflected, because those will be the type of content you'll see on my channel. There are CAG games that are coming out that I would love to play and put them on my YouTube channel, and those are Axel Blood by the Axel team, Spine, Ninja Gaiden 4, etc. So even though Cobra Kai is ending, we may not even get more Cobra Kai content, like at least those videos will be there, so that spirit that Cobra Kai has given us will still be alive in those videos.